Yeah? If the guy here, who is a trader, who uses this trading screen, if he enters an order here and says, I want to buy day-ahead power at 30 euro, then this order is routed through the blockchain as usually transactions are routed through the blockchain, like with Bitcoin and any other blockchain application. The other market participants see the order popping up on their trading screen, as usually every trader sees orders popping up, even if there is a central marketplace. And then they decide, yes, I want to lift this order, I want to execute a trade. And then the trade data is written again to the blockchain, it's propagated to the other participants, and it consumes the order. And this way we perform transaction, gas or power trade without any entity in the middle. And why does that make sense? Oh, there's a very strong business case. So if you think of an exchange which costs 5 million a year, you need managing directors, you need lawyers, you need market supervision, market control, marketing, support, IT, and outsourced IT and all that. Let's say 5 million euro, and we have 50 market participants, then everyone pays 100,000 euro on average a year. And that is much. Maybe not for these 50 because they participate in the market, but already for number 51, and for sure for number 100 in the market, and for number 200. And if we remove this central thing in the middle and replace it by a couple of nodes, the cost tag is a couple of thousand euros for running the nodes, and maybe a couple of, I don't know, 100,000 euros for managing the nodes and administering the nodes, and that's it. That's the external cost. Maybe there's also other internal costs, but the external cost is dramatically reduced, and that is really disruptive. And we are doing this project. By the way, the list has extended now. We have 32 participants, so there is BP on board, there is Statoil also on board, there is Energie AG from Lund participating. So we have 32 altogether now. Why are they doing this? First, they want to learn about blockchain, how it works. Yeah, this is it's a research exercise as the first attempt. As a second attempt, they really want to implement this to have a fully integrated end-to-end process to see if it works. Yeah? And then there are again others who say this is not enough. We really want to use it for trading, for productive trading of power and gas, because for the industry with reducing prices for energy, with reduced volumes per transaction, and with relatively increasing transaction cost, external and internal, they lose money by trading in the classical way. So they are all looking for new opportunities to do the process of energy trading in a new way. Yeah? And wholesale trading, of course, if you look, think of the hierarchy of trading levels that I said, wholesale trading is the higher level, so that's the lowest hanging fruit to do that. So this is really exciting. The go live will be in Q4 this year. So let me jump ahead. There's no time left. This is the same for the low level, just for some devices. This is the new 4.0 project team. Our role is to build the smart market. Probably based on the blockchain. It's not decided yet. If it doesn't make sense on the blockchain, we do it in a different way. Where's the business case for blockchain? Very quick. It's the mix. Yeah, different features. If we can combine these features up there, we have a good opportunity to purposefully make use of the blockchain. And this is my favorite slide, but there's no time to go through it. So classically, we will do a software project like in a top-down way, like on the left side. The blockchain is a completely different, very bizarre technology. It doesn't work. So here we have to think about the business model from the technology perspective. So bottom up. So we have to find the question which fits to the solution. And that is exciting because it's like an elevator ride between the technical level and the business model level. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Thank you. I think a few minutes.
Well, as we see, blockchain is a very quick technology, so, so made up some time. As said, I would suggest that we keep the questions to the end of the session, and because especially the next presentation will be there is some example, another example of blockchain technology. So I think it fits very well to what we just heard. Mr. Strempfl, he is active in one of the Austrian DSO'S, and he was an assistant professor at the Graz Technical University, and we're looking forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for listening to me. I have to warn you, I will tell you about the DSO and the new role of the DSO, and we already heard it from Michel, but you will hear it from my side once again, but from the Austrian perspective, so a little bit different. I will tell you about where do we come from at the first point. The second point is where we are going to, and the third point should be what will we do to go there, just that. First of all, you see, our company, Energies Steiermark, was founded more than 100 years ago. Then in 1902, they built some hydro plants and realized electrification in Styria. 60 years ago, there was another company called, made a gas business for the industry, for the steel, paper, and so on, and later on also for residual customers. And 10 years later, also another company was founded for district heating. In the middle of the 90s of the last century, there were the holding Energies Steiermark founded, and all these companies were grouped together within this holding. And in 2003, the merging began. First, we merged the electricity company and merged the gas and the district heating company. Because of unbundling 2006, we had to implement two DSO'S, one for a gas business and one for an electricity business. And in 2014, we made a huge reorganization project, and then we mixed up the whole company. So now we have one DSO and one technical service company, and the DSO, of course, is unbundled. I have to say this because Mr. Meyer is a representative of the National Regulatory Authority, and I have to take care of my speech. But the technical service company does not only work for the DSO, for the legally unbundled DSO, but also for other DSOs and for the industry. So therefore, we have two companies in the grid business. There's another, and the grid business is gas and electricity. There are other companies for trading and supply, for commercial services, for energy production, generation, green generation, for district heating, and our engagement in Slovakia for district heating. So the energy transition. We all know these climate and energy targets. Because of the 2-degree target, we want to decrease greenhouse gases. We want to increase the generation of renewable electricity, and we want to decrease consumption. And this is a target coming from the European Commission, from the European Parliament. The Austrian strategy is always under construction because of the elections in the middle of October. It will take time, another few months, we will see. But therefore, the Association of the Electricity Industry in Austria made a strategy for the electricity business. We have to take care. Electricity is only 20% of the whole energy consumption in Austria, and I think in other countries as well. So it is necessary to make a strategy for electricity, but you also have to think of the other energy parts. When we look at this graph on the right-hand and the left-hand side, you see in 2012 we had almost 300 terawatt hours of consumption in Austria, and 20% of it was electricity. And we think we can reduce it almost down to 250 terawatt hours in 2030, but at the same time, we will increase the demand of electricity. This is the only way to reach this target. Therefore, we have to increase the production of electricity, and we think this can be done by using hydro, by using wind, and by using photovoltaic. And we have to know in Austria, we already have a huge amount of hydropower plant, so almost 2/3 of the electricity production is already produced renewable by hydros, and we also have increasing production of wind, PV, and other renewables, so almost 80% of the electricity production is already renewable. And we have to buy additional plants, hydro, wind, and PV. So you can see the development of the renewable resources except hydro from 2001 to 2015. And you see this huge increase of PV, of wind and others. And this is very interesting for TSO because all these plants, almost all of these plants are connected to the transmission system at the low voltage level and at the medium voltage level, and sometimes at the 110 kilowatt level. And this is something which has a very huge impact to the TSO because you have to increase your reinvestment. You have to change the way you operate the grid, and even the maintenance is affected by this. Here you can see it in our grid, Energienetze Steiermark. In 2006, the blue line, we had I think 20, 30 PV facilities in our grid. I could have known them by personal. Yeah? Now we have more than 15,000, and the number is still increasing. And they are all connected to our grid at the low voltage level, at the medium voltage level. And you see it's the same thing at the wind production. Now we have at 2016, we had 150. It is still near to 200, and another 200 megawatts are under construction. So this is connected to the transmission grid, and we will have to handle that. And believe me, we will do it. And that is how it looks like because of the landscape. These wind parks are settled at the top of the mountains. And as you know, at the top of the mountains, there's no grid. Well, first of all, we have to build the grid in order to get the energy from the windmills down to the grid and at least to the customers. And even the big solars are not at where the highest consumption is, but they are there where the highest PV sun is, and the sun is even at the top of the mountain. So this is something we have to handle with. If you look to the country where I come from, the federal state of Styria, you see now some black points in this map, which represents the PV facilities at the end of 2010. And this is how it looks like 5 years later at 2016, as 6 years. And this number is still increasing. And if you are wondering about these white areas between the points, this is why we are not the only DSO in this area. There are almost more than 40 of them. By the way, we are the biggest one. Another thing is, when you look to the load curve of a wind plant or a PV facility, you can see this is a very volatile production. We already heard it before. And this is another effect which has a big impact to the distribution grid, because you have to handle with this high volatility coming from this production, wind and PV, and this is something we have to deal with. And this is a picture coming from my friends of Germany, and I like it very much because we see these renewable resources will turn the system upside down. In the past, we always saw a map at the top of the level, the transmission system operator. He is the biggest one, he can save the world. And only somewhere in the last 10% order, you see a little point of DSO. Now the things have changed. The DSO'S are those who are on the top because the production will be connected to the DSO'S, and by the way, the customers as well. And sometimes you have a huge surplus of energy which is produced in the distribution grid, and you have to transport this power to other DSO'S or to the transmission grid, and at the other hour you will have it at the upside down, and then the other way around. And therefore, there's no one way of electricity that we had in the past, but we have several different situations we have to handle with, and that's why I would like to say we are not grid operators anymore, Michel, but we are system operators. DSO'S doesn't like to hear this, but it's the truth. We have to handle generators, very high volatile generators. We have to handle new customers because they are more active. They are prosumers. They do not only consume power, but they do also generate power. They have storage units in their homes where they can store energy and where they can transport the energy and use it at any times. And you have the power to X. We heard it before. Now we have different kinds of customers, this different kind of energy use, and the DSO'S will have to handle these things. So what are the challenges? Digitalization. Before you can make effort of digitalization, you have to get data from the grid. In the past, we had meters at the customer level. We read them once a year, maybe once in 3 years. So this is not enough data to operate the grid in such circumstances. Therefore, we have started to roll out the smart meter. And you have to roll out smart meters at 100% level. Every customer has to have a smart meter in order to get this data. It is necessary to operate the grid. It is necessary, for example, the grid automatization. The grid is already automated, for example, at the 110 kilowatt level, but at the medium voltage level, at the low voltage level, we have to work on it. And it is possible if we have this data and we have the possibility to automate the grid. Big data analytics is a big issue, big data. We can have additional information coming from the data for the reinvestment, for the maintenance, and even for the operation of the grid. And of course, we are doing right now, the commercial data has to be handled to the market, to the other market participants. We had at least a lot of flexibility and renewable resources. The one big point is, I said it before, renewables are connected almost to the distribution grid at the low voltage level and at the medium voltage level. And active grid management is now necessary to operate the grid, for example, curtailment, for example, flexibility and something like that. And we have new customers. Heat pumps. We have a lot of heat pumps and the number is still increasing. We have PV, the number is increasing. We have wind generation, the number is increasing. And because of the climate change, the amount of air conditions is also increasing. And this is a big potential for flexibility and to work with it. And the system stability is still an issue for the DSO, of course. He is responsible for the frequency stability. But because the generators are more and more connected to the DSO, we have to increase the relationship and the cooperation between DSO and DSO in order to keep the system stable and secure. And one thing is important, local problems at the distribution level should be solved at the local level. It is not an issue for the DSO, it's an issue for the DSO. Next thing, what is it all about for the DSO? We think the DSO is the market facilitator for the so-called smart grids. Why is this? Because we are unbundled. We are unbundled for more than 10 years, and now, since these 10 years, we are used to be unbundled. Even our owners doesn't like how we act, but that's the truth. And for that, we are able to interact with the customer in a very neutral way and a non-discriminatory way. We can operate, and we do it right now, data hubs in order to share this data with our market participants, with the suppliers, with the traders, with other DSOs, with the TSO, and even with the customers. And we have implemented a so-called system EDA, Energiewirtschaftlicher Datenaustausch, and we also say in English, Energy Data Exchange in Austria. Michel already mentioned it before. And as for the future, we think DSOs shall interact with the network customers and host a market platform for regional flexibility, because these customers are connected to the grid, and flexibility is very much interesting for the DSO, but also for other market participants. And the DSO is neutral. He is unbundled. He is able to run such a platform in a neutral and non-discriminatory way. We heard about this EDA. What did we do? It is a great discussion all over Europe how the data hubs should be organized. In some countries, they say, let's make a central data hub in the middle of the country. In Austria, it would be Vienna. It's not in the middle, but that's the way it is. Physically. and it would work, but it's huge expensive because first of all the data has to be collected by the DSO'S, by the regional DSO'S, and then it had to be sent to these central data hubs, and then it is stored twice, and you have to pay twice, of course. And we said, no, we find another way. First of all, we make standardization. We standardize the data format, we standardize the protocols we use, and we standardize the processes we use, for example, customer switching. And then if you connect all these central data hubs together, standardized with one data format, then you have already a virtual data hub, which is very much more cheaper than a central data hub, and that's the truth. And this is not just a slide, this is still in operation for more than 3 years, and we do already a lot of processes, for example, customer switching within this platform, and another new processes are on the way to handle it. Another thing is, how can we harvest this flexibility and bring it to those who need it? In our situation, we have the customer who wants to sell flexibility, we have the aggregator who collects the flexibility, we have the market who needs the flexibility, and we have the DSO where this flexibility is connected. And if the market gives a signal, please aggregator, send me a flexibility plus 5 megawatts, then the flexibility customer will give it, and the DSO will be informed just right now, and he has to decide, is it possible or is it not possible? And this is a rather cheap way, because if you, as a customer, want to change the aggregator, you have to change the system. But if you use it the other way, the DSO should be the one who has the technical equipment to harvest, for example, this flexibility, and the aggregators work together with the DSO, then it's a lot cheaper to bring up such a system, and it's more safe because the DSO is engaged and can say right now, please do not this interaction because it has a damage to the system. And now to the so-called blockchain. We see some commercial use cases, for example, for blockchain. We already heard about the peer-to-peer energy trading. I don't think it was already realized all over the world. I think once in the New York City for 1/4 of an hour, but we are still working on it. We have in Austria and even in Germany the so-called Mieterstrom model, where there are apartment houses with several customers in it, and they share one PV, and they should be able to share the produced energy to each other. And even for those systems, it would be able to use blockchain, for example. And we have the business of the auxiliary service. Michael Merz already mentioned the so-called grid chain project, which is already in simulation modus in Austria, and we will bring it to the market in a few months. The second one is a DSO use case, a decentral management of a central grid power unit. So if you know, many PV generators also are going to build some storage in their houses, and you will have in your low voltage grid a lot of small storage units. Maybe it is possible to have only one in one village and share it to the customers. And this storage can also be used for the DSO in order to, for example, keep the wattage level at the right level. And the third one, business case, is a peer-to-peer flexibility exchange. As you know, each customer is allowed to use the grid at a certain amount of power. But maybe one customer will go for holiday, 2 weeks, and he does not need for this time his flexibility. He should be able to sell it to his neighbor or to another neighbor, and this process can be done, for example, with a blockchain process. So this is the grid chain. I won't talk to it anymore because Michael already mentioned the details. The second one is our Leaves project, which is already running, but right now without blockchain, and blockchain will be included. It's a project with the companies Siemens and IT and the grid singularity. The grid chain is coming from grid singularity. What is it all about? We, as I said before, located a central storage unit within a low voltage grid, a village. And it should be able to share this storage to a several amount of customers. on the one hand, and on the other hand, it should be able to operate this storage in order to help the grid operator, the DSO, the system operator, to have right grid operation. This is the technical. This is how it looks like. Yeah, very nice. And this is the technical situation. I do not want to go that much in detail. And this is a view from above. And there you can see where the transformer station is located and where we located the storage unit. And of course, we located it at the other end of the grid because there is the biggest voltage level problem. And we can use this storage not only to share it to customers at the market situation, but also for the DSO. And this is a big issue because on the European level, we have a huge discussion who should be allowed to run and operate storage units. Of course, my friends, the suppliers, the traders said it's a market. And only market participants should be allowed to run it. Yes, they can do it. But on the other hand, these storage units can help the DSO to run and operate a grid more efficient because you can avoid huge investments, overhead lines, substations, something like that, but you can install a cheaper storage unit, and this is also a possibility to run and operate the grid. So from our point of view, it should be allowed also for the DSO to run and operate storage units. So this is the concept to use blockchain in this little small low voltage grid. Each household is equipped with a PV, each is equipped with a smart meter, and each customer will be equipped with an Ethereum client, and this Ethereum client will be able to forecast how much storage capacity will be needed for the next day. They will make an order. On the next time there will be the business, the interaction, and with the so-called smart contract it is paid at the same time. And then we have the data storage and, of course, the billing for all this business. And the second one is, I always talked about it, the peer-to-peer flexibility share. We will make it at the same village because we see there is a grid capacity for each customer. They have a contract with the DSO. But sometimes maybe one customer needs just for a few hours, for a few days, more capacity. And with this model, he should be able to earn this additional flexibility from his neighbor because, for example, he's on holiday and doesn't need it. If the first one buys a Tesla and he wants to charge it very fast, he can buy this additional amount of capacity from his neighbor. He can charge his Tesla very quick, and then he can let them drive with the Tesla, his neighbors, of course. So thank you very much. And one thing now to that what Michael said, yes, I do not think blockchain is terrible and blockchain is dangerous because, you know, the Terminator is an Austrian.
Thank you very much. I think the slide Mr. Merz showed with the new markets, which are like cakes, you already see that there's a run for the pieces of the cake. So everybody wants a big piece of the cake. That's quite natural, I think. And as a regulator, we also have some ideas about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question to Franz. You have said you have a lot of competitors in your state. Do you believe that all your competitors will be capable to do this data management, this flexibility management, this system stability management? And then I have a second question to Michel. As I have heard, it takes some time between giving the order into the blockchain and it is verified. And does it represent a problem?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there are more than 40 DSO'S which are connected to our grid. And some of them are big and some of them are very small. But we have a lot of cooperations with them. And as a matter of fact, these programs help us to come into a cooperation with them. For example, we are doing now the smart metering rollout in this area. More than approximately 1 million meters has to be installed, and all those work together with us to make the rollout. We make together a tender, we make together the architecture of the whole system, from the meter up to the metering data management system, and we do it in a cooperation. I think it's possible also for a small one to do it in cooperation with a bigger one, with another small one, something like that. And we do it not only for the smart metering business, but we do it also, for example, in the SCADA system. We have a new SCADA system, and small DSOs have the possibility to use our SCADA system to run and operate their grid. Or they can give the whole business to us and we run and operate their grid. Both is possible.
Using blockchain for trade execution doesn't work for every type of trading. So if we talk about high-frequency trading, as we see that in Frankfurt or London or New York, forget blockchain. Yeah? But if you look at the spectrum, we have high-frequency trading at one end of the spectrum, and we have quite low liquidity markets in the commodity space, for example, on the other end of the spectrum. So somewhere in the middle is a gray zone where it makes sense to start using blockchain. And indeed, whenever an order is submitted through the blockchain, it takes some time until it is made available or until it appears on the trading screens of the participants. But it appears on the trading screen more or less at the same time, but with a certain delay. Why? Because as a transaction, it is pushed through the network at a frequency of 1 block per second. It will enter into a block, and once this block has been validated as a part of the consensus mechanism in the blockchain, it is pushed up to the different participants. So if you imagine of 10,000 trades per second, it won't work. It's too much on the high frequency trade. If you take a quite illiquid platform where you have hundreds of trades a day and not more, I think it would easily work. Somewhere in between, I'm not sure where the limit is. If this is 10,000 trades a day or 50,000 or 5,000, we will have to find out. This is why we do a proof of concept with that. Yeah.
I think this time lag is the source of cheating.
It's not a source of cheating if the participants receive the data at the same time, and it is important to assure that this happens. If you look at classical exchanges, which are located in Paris or Leipzig or UK, you also have network latencies. And if you are located somewhere in Portugal or in I don't know, South Italy, you have to face a different latency if compared to co-location. This is why exchanges, like in Frankfurt, sell co-location space because the banks buy computing power which is directly connected to the exchange. And then you may also ask, is that fair? So you pay much to be co-located, to be faster at the source of the data, vis-a-vis the people who have a higher latency as far as access to the trading venue is concerned. So it's a similar situation.
If I pay to my bank a bill and the other party is cheating, then the bank pays me back the money. So this central agent is my insurance that I will not pay for nothing. And in this blockchain, nothing of this happens. So if the other partner has not the electricity I have bought because he had sold in the meantime to someone else, who one pays back my money?
I would see it differently. I mean, if the current situation of an energy market is too expensive to trade low volume trades, how should that be done then? So either the transaction fees and the access fees have to be reduced for the existing exchanges and platforms, or the other way around. We face a cost reduction situation, and this is a way to reduce the cost. So we do a proof of concept. We do it exactly to find out how does it behave, how to fine-tune the system, and what is really the runtime in such a system. And I think in 3 months' time we will be much faster, and we can report about exactly this, how it works. So well, I think we should have a look at that once that has been executed.
Thank you. My understanding is at least that, I mean, the metering data is connected to a smart contract. So, of course, it's always possible to manipulate the meters and to do something there. But in principle, the metering data is directly fulfilling the contract and then directly triggering the payment. So it's a one-to-one relationship. And therefore, it's a bit more difficult than in other mechanisms where you need an intermediary in between to verify if something has even been produced and provided. But yeah. Any other questions? I mean, we are already in the coffee break, so I understand that you think about the coffee, not about metering data and blockchains. If not, I would like to thank again the presenters, and thank you very much. I would propose, if you have urgent bilateral questions, then please ask the presenters bilaterally. Thank you very much.